Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hand.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun, this is for riding, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Yeah, holy smokes, it's Friday already. Hi, how you doing? It's our favorite day of the week. That's right. The one day a week that we get a chance to dedicate it to the Second Amendment, gun rights, and to talk about all the things that, are important to each and every one of us. Well, I guess those of you who are listening right now, I fully believe that the Second Amendment is, as old Chuck Heston said there in the beginning, in order of importance, the First Amendment, the one right that allows all the other rights to exist. It is that implicit stopgap against an overreaching federal and state government. That's what it's all about. That is what it is all about. And I'm pretty excited about it today. It's been a while since we've had a chance to dive into some of these things, and I am ready to get with it. Get with it and do our thing. All right, let's chit chat. Let's chit chat about some of the stories that we're going to be covering today. We're going to be joined in hour 2 by TopShot Chris Cheng, who you probably know from season 4 of the History Channel's television show TopShot, where he was he reigned supreme. He was the champion on that season of the show. Later on, went on to become a spokesperson for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Wrote his own book, Shoot to Win, about being a neophyte gun owner and teaching himself to shoot, and then going on to win TopShot. Lots of tips and tricks there. And of course, later on, starting the Asian American Pacific Gun Owners Association, and working with other organizations like Walk the Talk America and so many other things. He's out there. He's in the middle of it, and we love to talk to him. Haven't had a chance to talk with him. We missed the December. He comes on once a month, and we missed the December discussion because he was traveling. So lots to catch up on with Chris Cheng in hour 2 today, and we'll be ready to go. We'll be ready to go here in the second hour of the show. We'll also finish up, of course, with our friend Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. For the weekend entertainment review, just a lighter side. But the rest of the show today is all dedicated to the Second Amendment and more. So we've got we got a lot. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. There are quite a few stories, including a story out of Australia, which always makes me not giddy, but it always makes me laugh because, boy, they always hold up the Australian thing, right? Oh man, if only we could be like Australia. If only America could do what Australia's done, and it just make it so much better. And yet, when we look at it, it ain't quite so great. There we got a story there. Supreme Court has several cases in front of it that could be very, very important to Second Amendment supporters and to the right to keep and bear arms. We'll talk about some of the latest stuff that is in front of the Supreme Court and what they appear to be doing about it. We've got some free speech denial that is causing some Second Amendment denial, some First Amendment denial that's causing some Second Amendment stuff. You may not like what people say, but people have the right to say it. We'll talk about that. The latest from the NRA, they've come out of that lawsuit, and maybe they're shedding some of the problems that they've had as well. And also some things that are going on down in Texas. And finally, the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, what we used to lovingly call F Troop all the time. They are back in the spotlight, and there may be some movement on this at a congressional level. And we're going to talk about that. Some of the things that went on last month that we weren't able to cover because I was on vacation. And it's raised a lot of questions. And now the new Congress might be moving on that as well. All right. So those are some of the stories that we're getting started on. I'm not sure where I want to start. I guess I will start off here with just a simple explanation of Firearms Friday, because it's the first one of the new year. We've been off for a while, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it. So Firearms Friday came out of a discussion that I had with one of my former bosses, because I used to sprinkle firearm stories throughout my shows during the week. And at the time, well, let's just put it this way. He didn't used to be a firearms guy. Now he's a firearms guy. So I don't know if this conversation would have happened if he had become a firearms guy before we had this, but it doesn't matter. I don't hold it against him. He just like, well, maybe you should just, hold all the stories and do, a segment or show on just. So he was actually, Perry was actually the impetus. He was actually the reason why Firearms Friday came into being, because I had all these stories, and he suggested I sprinkle them all in one day. And so that's what I started doing about 15 years ago, I guess. And why? I know I can see the numbers right now on radio. It's harder. I can't see all you guys out there listening in Radio Land right now. But as I've watched the numbers, I've been broadcasting on social media for about the last 8 years, I guess. I've been broadcasting the show every morning, simulcasting it on social media, Facebook, and then Facebook and YouTube, and then Facebook and YouTube and Rumble, and all that kind of stuff. And so I can see how many people are literally, watching at any given time. And I understand that the people who are watching online are a fraction of the people who are actually listening on the radio. But I can see that on Fridays, the size of the audience is not as big as it is during the rest of the week. That's just the way it is, because some people, all they want to hear about is the red meat politics, what's going on at the state or the national level, what's going on with Congress, that, those are the things that they want to, that's what they want to hear about. And so, I understand that this show Friday, Firearms Friday, is not for everybody. And, but I still think, like I said, with what Chuck Heston said, it is, in order of importance, the Second Amendment is the First Amendment. It's the one right that allows all the rights to exist. Now, you have to remember that first, the founders, they believed that they had written, a good document in the Constitution. They thought, well, this is pretty clear. This is pretty clear what we want, what we need. We want to hold government back. We don't want it interfering in our lives, et cetera, et cetera. The Constitution is a prescription. It's a restriction on government. It basically says that all the rights are reserved to the people, et cetera, et cetera. But later on, they came back and said, you know what, we need more clarification. And that's when they wrote the Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments to the Constitution that included the freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, freedom of religion, freedom from persecution, freedom from indemnifying yourself, free to be in your, in your home and in your persons and in your property and all those other amendments. So even they acknowledged that how important this was. And it's the fact, I believe, that, here we are, what are we, 200 and almost 250 years? We're 250 years into, since the Declaration of Independence. We're almost 250 years into this country's history, and we are still, even with all the warts and blisters and boils and ugly things that can happen in this country, we're still freer than any other country in the world. And I know there's a freedom index that says America's not as free as some other place, but overall, we are still as free as any nation on earth, and for, again, 250 years. And I firmly believe it is because of our right to keep and bear arms that we have been as free. Now, maybe that's a hyperbolic statement. I maybe that's what you feel like, but I truly believe it. Because you see, it's not the fact that we are marching on Washington, D.C. on a weekly basis. It's not that we're showing up outside someplace, with pitchforks, torches, and ARs and shotguns to force politicians. No, it's that soft, quiet voice, that understanding that politicians have that know that, well, we can only push them so far and then no farther, and that the people have the ability to push back or to fight back if that's the case. It's an implicit and implied threat. And what we've been fighting over the last, 40 years in this country, what we've been fighting, really since 1968, but at an accelerated pace in my mind for the last 45 years, what we've been fighting is this quiet battle for the heart and soul of the Second Amendment and being able to defend ourselves. And that's what we try and do on Firearms Friday. We try and bring out the reasons why the Second Amendment's important. We try and demystify firearms, because we're fighting against a whole bunch of, we got talking heads on the news media. We've got entertainment industry wonks out there who are writing stories that make gun owners look bad. We've got, movie plot lines and television plot lines that portray gun owners as nut jobs. And, we're fighting basically a PR and propaganda campaign that's been put together by those who are, on the left, who are influential, who are anti-gun and exercise that power in their various industries and places to besmirch, to befuddle, to deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate the truth about what firearms really are about and to what the Second Amendment is really protecting. And so that's why we created Firearms Friday, to talk about these things and to try and bring some hard truth and facts to these discussions. And so hopefully you'll tune in and you'll tell your friends to tune in, and anybody that has a question. This show is not really dedicated to pro 2A people. I'm glad you're here. I love the fact that you're here. You're my tribe. But this show is really dedicated to, and it's not for the anti-gun people either. I'm not trying to convince anti-gun people that I'm right. What I'm looking for are those folks in the middle, those the not pro-gun, they're not anti-gun, they're kind of gun curious, right? I'm a little gun curious. Maybe they've seen some of the things in the news, or they've seen the things and they're not quite sure. And that's what this show is for. It's for those people in the middle to try and explain to them what they're seeing and why this is happening and what the truth is about some of the stats and numbers, statistics, everything else. So that's what Firearms Friday is all about. And look at that. We're up against the break. So we got our first story coming up here in just a minute. Because what do we hear from the anti-gunners all the time? Well, if only we were like Australia. You know, England's a close second, but Australia is usually the go-to. If only we'd done what Australia did back in the 90s and do their gun confiscation. I mean, their gun buyback. It was a confiscation, but, if only we would do that. We're going to talk about that on the other side. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay. Everybody went to break. All right, we're good. All right, everything's good. We made it to Friday, a full week of work. Yeah, I mean, it went so fast. So fast. All right, let me go over here. Anthony has got something that I was trying to read. I couldn't read and talk at the same time. Pete says, Firearms Friday is the most important show of the week. Thank you, Pete. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but it is an important show. I don't know if it's the most important show of the week, but I feel like it is. It is an important show. Brian says Colorado got Californicated. Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. I mean, that is wow. All right, let's go over to Anthony's comment, which I tried to, So here's the thing, and we're going to get into this in just a bit, Anthony. He said, well, I'm voting we use Colorado as a new nuclear weapons test site. Senate Bill 25-003 over there is attempting to install the framework to outright ban any weapon with detachable magazines. Bunch of goofball liberals don't understand that mass shootings aren't happening because plastic bullet boxes, but they're because disarmed and legislated legal gun owners are out of the picture. And then he goes on to say, the diabolical part of that bill I'm talking about is that it would essentially require firearms manufacturers to essentially redesign a platform to be compliant or just stop entirely until it drags itself through court years later. Anyway, we're going to get into the Colorado thing here in a little bit. They got a little bit of altitude sickness over there, I think, from being so high all the time. I mean, it's nuts. And you would think that they would learn. You would think that they would learn. In 2013, Colorado passed their first round of gun control right after Sandy Hook, and they were obliterated by a recall. They got recalled. Everybody that was supporting that got recalled in Colorado. But slowly but surely, Colorado has moved into the pretty much solidly blue category. Now they've got a new governor, and there's been some hope that the governor, Jared Polis, would be. He's a Democrat, but he's done some. I mean, he's taken some stances that have had more people kind of mouth the word libertarian. Anyone. He could stand in the way of some of this stuff, but I don't know if he will. But we'll go through this. Rajit Singh has a good piece on this, and we'll go through some of the points on this. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, why at this point? Why would you want to live in Colorado? I don't know. It's getting to be more like California than anywhere else in the country right now. That's pretty much it. All right, let me go back here. And Polis, Donna says Polis is a libertarian. Well, I hope so. He's had some moments where I've been pleasantly surprised. But at this point, I'm not quite ready to give him the Letterman's vest. if you know what I mean. All right, let me go back up here to see if any. Good morning. Kenneth over on YouTube asks, has anyone had any experience with PSA's Jackal 10? I have not. I can't say that I have. So I don't know, Kenneth, but it's a good question. It's a good question. I do not know. Let's see. It's white here again in Rick says in the Matsu. Got white here again yesterday as well. It started snowing like crazy. All right, let me go back over here. All right. There we go. Yeah. We're going to talk about that as well, Jeannie. We'll talk about that when we get into Australia here in just a second. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that YouTube-y stuff. Let's get to it.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, let's continue here. Firearms Friday. Got some good stories here. We're starting off, of course, with the whole idea that somehow, somewhere, we need to be emulating what Australia has done, right? I mean, how many times have you heard that from a talking head or the news media? If only we'd done what Australia did, because Australia, for those of you who haven't been following along, or you who are just not, who are, gun curious, I mean, Australia did their style of gun control back in the 90s after a mass shooting. They decided to enact they called it a gun buyback program, but it's really mandatory, right? And so it was really a gun confiscation program that you just, they paid you to turn over your hardware. Then everybody started crowing about how great it was and how, look at what great the problem is that they've seen more mass murders since passing that. They've seen more mass shootings. They've seen crime go up. There was an article, I mean, was it 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I guess, where there was a whole thing about how what they called bikies, that's what they call biker gangs in Australia, bikies. The bikies in places like Sydney and Melbourne, some of the major metropolitan hubs in Australia, they were essentially taking over, buying out machine shops, and they were using them as manufacturing hubs for machine guns. They were building their own machine guns in their own machine shops and using them to, sell illicit arms to other bikies and other criminals. I mean, this is what happens. Criminal, they just went underground. They went full on, mass marketing production assembly line. And they did that. And it just got worse and worse. Now, other things have come out too since then, which I'll talk about here in a second. But if somebody just says, well, we need to do what Australia did, you've got another example. I mean, there's tons of examples out there. First of all, the murder rate in Australia rose precipitously for the first, after the gun ban, a confiscation. It was kind of crazy. You can go back and look at the statistics. There's plenty of people who have written about the post-gun ban Australia crime rate and what happened there. And it's kind of scary what goes on. I mean, imagine what happens when you tell lawful, legal, law-abiding citizens, I'm sorry, you can't defend yourself. You can have nothing. Go. You're sorry, you can't do any of that. Go. And then, of course, the only people who are left are, criminals who will ignore the law anyway. And now you've disarmed the populace and made them, you've given them a huge victim pool. Big surprise if that victim pool gets victimized by criminals who don't obey the law. I know, it's shocking, right? So, the latest story right out of Australia. And this comes from MSNBC. I'm sorry, MSN. So this is a story from just a couple of days ago. New details have emerged from a case of an alleged home invader later involved in a police pursuit and escape across state lines in Australia. A man accused of firing at police during a car chase was allegedly carrying 2 pistols, a rifle, and a grenade after a botched New Year's Eve home invasion. 2 different folks here, who I'm not going to name, both 20, allegedly fled police in a stolen car after the attempted breaking and entering at an Endensor Park home in Sydney. Shots were allegedly fired into the hood of a police car during a later pursuit with the stolen car only stopping when road spikes were used. One of the suspects fled into the bushland and escaped detection until he was stopped by police in a Brisbane airport. Following his extradition to New South Wales overnight, the 20-year-old faced accusations on Tuesday of possessing military-style weapons among a string of 13 other charges. He allegedly had, during and after the home invasion, a Glock 19 Gen 4 pistol, a 9mm Beretta M9 pistol, an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, and a grenade. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't just walk into Tom's gun store and pick up a grenade, right? I just can't walk in there and be like, I'll take that. Thank you. Pineapple or baseball? Oh no, I'll take either one, right? You just can't walk in and do that. In Australia, not only are handguns, highly illegal and everything else, but an AR-15? No, you can't even do it. You can't even. This guy was loaded for bear. He shot at the police. He could have just, I suppose, thrown the grenade and really hurt somebody. But, maybe it cost him a pretty penny. I don't know. But this is what's happening everywhere there is gun control. The bad guys are doing bad things. Why? Because they are criminals. And the very definition of criminal means someone who is willing to break the law. Gun control does not stop bad people from doing bad things. It doesn't stop bad people from getting guns or weapons. All it does is stop law-abiding people from having the means to protect themselves. That's all it does. Gun control is essentially victim disarmament. That's essentially what it is. You are disarming potential victims who would, up until that point, have the ability to defend themselves against the bad guys. When you look at the incident of gun violence and criminal gun use, I guess I would call it, not gun violence, but criminal gun use in the United States, and you compare it to defensive gun use, DGU, where a gun is used to stop a crime, most times without ever having to be used or fired, the mere presence of the firearm has stopped a crime. And you realize that in a country of 330-something million people, we're experiencing about 12,000 homicides a year, 14,000 homicides a year from firearms. And yet the defensive gun use statistics put them in the million category, million per year. You realize that the problem is not as full-blown or far-fetched as most in the news media and most of the talking heads are portraying, or the politicians. It's amazing. But oh no, we need more we need more of what Australia has. They've got the same problem. You've got gun control in DC. You've got gun control in California. You got gun control in Chicago. You got gun control in New York. Is it stopping the criminals from doing the criminal things? No. All it's doing is disarming legal, lawful, law-abiding citizens and preventing them from being able to defend themselves. So all you got to do is look at these kind of stories, and next time somebody says something about Australia, just say, "Wow, yeah, no, they got grenades, man. You can get grenades in." That's a thing right there. Just go ahead, man. Go ahead. Well, the NRA's back in the news, and it's some good news, I believe. The NRA has finally kind of come out from underneath the woodshed and is picking itself back up and building itself back. There still needs to shed some baggage. And one of the things that they need to do is kind of shed all vestiges of the Wayne LaPierre era, all the cronyism and all the people that he was working with. They need to go. And now it looks like that is happening. The partnership, according to the article from the Reload, the partnership between the NRA and the architect of its legal strategy for the last half decade is now ending. Brewer, attorneys, and counselors announced late last month it will no longer represent the NRA going forward. The firm and its namesake, William Brewer, have been instrumental in direction-defining decisions the gun rights groups has made since its corruption scandal broke in 2018. Those decisions resulted in the NRA splitting from its top contractor, filing for bankruptcy, wiping out the leadership, including Wayne LaPierre, and being found liable by a New York jury for failing to protect whistleblowers during a years-long civil trial. Brewer also secured a unanimous victory at the Supreme Court and prevented the group's total dissolution or even the appointment of a government overseer. Now, that's all well and good, but were they also part of the architect of some of these problems as well? They went on to say that they've stood for they're proud of what they've done, and they've done good, and he couldn't have done it without them. But not everybody agrees with that. There have been the board president, the NRA president, Bob Barr, and former president Charles Cotton all have said they needed them. People like my friend Jeff Knox, who's an NRA board member and a reform leader, said Brewer's statement that they made showed that the firm would rather ride off into the sunset than be tossed out into the street. All told, the NRA paid the Brewer firm somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million. $200 million is what they paid Brewer over the last 6 years. That's $33 million a year. And so, like Jeff Knox said, sure, they got to win, but at what cost? He said almost all of this could have and should have been avoided had the board been proactive back in 2019. Instead, after almost 6 years of litigation, suits, and countersuits, and almost $200 million spent, the NRA is left struggling on all fronts, and the Brewers firm record is abysmal. He argued that that any law firm could have won that court case in front of the Supreme Court over whether or not the disillusionment should have happened. And remember, keep in mind, that's $33 million a year, money that didn't go into lobbying efforts, supporting candidates, or doing everything else. All the while, the NRA is out there crying poor mouth all the time because again, a problem of their own making. But again, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this is at least a good sign. Cut out the dead weight. Get the people out of there that have been part of the problem. And Brewer was one of the this is again part of that Wayne LaPierre kind of era of folks that were. There was. Remember what was the other one? What was the other one? LP&O or whatever. Millions of dollars in cronyism and everything else going on. So this is good news. More changes at the NRA, and Brewer is out, and maybe, just maybe, we can find something. Maybe we can find something. Good will come of these changes at the NRA. I'm only hoping. I don't want the destruction of the NRA. I want it to come back. I want it to come back as a viable gun organization. I just don't want to see the same mistakes being made over and over and over again. You know what I mean? All right, well, that's good news. We're going to continue here. We got more. Colorado is back in the news. They have been Californicated. Yeah, they've. I mean, woof. You won't believe this. You think they would have learned their lesson from 10 years ago, but apparently a decade gives people short memories. We'll talk about Colorado and the Supreme Court. It's all up next. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, fine. How you guys doing? How you doing? How you doing, huh? Those things going in your neck of the woods. All right, let's take a look here at what you guys have been saying. All right. The Aussie blokes took some machine shops and making their own guns. Yeah. Brian, I agree with your take on Polis. He may occasionally have libertarian moments, but I'd not characterize him as a libertarian. I know. I'm just, Anthony said, and we're going to get into this, on the Colorado law, he says, of course, there's exemptions in place in good old Colorado for law enforcement because it's about power, not safety. This is how you make tyranny, people. More machine shops now. Yeah. Yeah. For makers. Wait a second, says Anthony. Hey, we can't just breeze past that statement. How is it easier to get a grenade in a no-gun country? I want a grenade. I know. We need grenade control. Grenade control. Let's see. Are people okay, or maybe red states. I can't remember, says Brian, the last time there was a story about a grenade being used in a crime or even confiscated. Alligators, on the other hand. I know. I mean, yeah, I don't know what's going on. All right, there we go. Happy Firearms Friday, Richie. Thanks for coming in. All the states are freaking out because Bonta is going to become precedents and magazines will be free for all. Yeah, I know. I'm excited about that. Don't, all right, we're gonna get into the Colorado thing. We're gonna get into the Colorado thing next, guys. It's I mean, this is craziness. I do not know what I don't know what the politicians are thinking. I mean, I guess maybe I do. It must be a bunch of the same tone deaf group of folks that are that were part of the election that just couldn't figure out how it would be possible that Donald Trump could be elected. That it must be, misogyny and people who hate themselves who voted for him because they just couldn't possibly understand it. Must be the same type of folks who are, in Colorado's legislative leadership right now with this new bill, which is just, it's shocking. This new bill is just absolutely shocking. But we'll get into that here in just a moment as we go through this here. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Fat Ray says that Colorado law could potentially jail a lot of concealed carry holders transitioning through Colorado if that nationwide reciprocity law passes. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I don't see it. I just can't see it going anywhere. Do you? I mean, can you really see it going anywhere? I mean, I know I can't. I can't imagine it actually heading somewhere in any way, shape, or form. What was this? Trump sentenced to nothing. Hold on a second here. I just got a message from somebody. Wow. Apparently Trump was sentenced to nothing and the judge said have a great second term. Is that did the court case? Let me full drudge real quick, see what's going on. Yeah, I don't sentenced without penalty. Sentenced without penalty in the hush money case. All right, well, I guess sentenced to nothing and have a great second term. Okay, well, we'll see. Thank you for the heads up on that, Gary. All right, we're going to continue here, and we'll see where we go in just a second. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. We are getting close here to wrapping things up for this hour. In hour 2, it will be Chris Cheng, TopShot champion Chris Cheng, and Willie Waffle for wafflemovies.com. This is the fastest show in radio. It's the fastest 2 hours of my day right here. Here we go. Let's get to it right now.
Public enema number 1. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number 1, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Yeah, I'm a pain in the something. That's how it works around here. All right, let's jump into this here and talk about the big deal. The big deal going on right now is this new law, which is it's an authoritarian gun ban. There's just no other way to put this out there. They're finally saying the quiet part out loud. Remember, they only want to eliminate weapons of war, right? They only want to eliminate evil black rifles, when what they really want to do is eliminate all semi-autos. Anything that is semi-automatic, whether it's your old Remington 1100 shotgun, semi-automatic shotgun, your Browning A12 or A20 shotgun, or whether it's your old semi-auto, your Mini 14 or your semi-auto hunting rifle, or whether it is an AR or an AK or anything, or any pistol that has been 1911, right? The Colt 1911s. They're now saying the quiet part out loud. They want to outlaw all semi-automatic handguns. Now, as I said earlier, you would think that Colorado would learn. Back in 2013, they passed that first round of gun control in 2013. And right after Sandy Hook. And immediately there was a recall. There was immediately a recall, and these people got spanked. Now, even with Michael Bloomberg spending out of state, the gun controller, Michael Bloomberg, they outspent the gun control advocates on the recalls more than 11-1, and they still got spanked. But I mean, apparently 10 years, because this is 2013, so 11, apparently 10 years, they got a very short attention span. And I hope this triggers something in Colorado like you've never seen before. But here's what the new bill is. The bill defines a specified semi-automatic firearm as a semi-automatic rifle or shotgun with a detachable magazine, or a gas-operated semi-automatic handgun with a detachable magazine. So anything that's semi-auto and has a magazine, which again, the vast majority of concealed carry handguns, the vast majority of handguns owned by the public, I would say, I mean, what would you guys in the chat room say? I would say probably it's a 2-to-1. But probably 2/3 of the pistols carried out there are probably pistols. They're probably semi-automatic pistols. Maybe a third of them are revolvers. But that's what they're defining everything. Rifle or shotgun with a detachable magazine, or gas-operated semi-automatic handgun with a detachable magazine. So here are the prohibited activities. Starting the September 1st, 2025, it will be unlawful to knowingly manufacture, distribute, transfer, sell, or purchase a specific semi-automatic firearm. No guns for you. Violations. A violation of this provision is a Class 2 misdemeanor for the first offense, escalating to a Class 6 felony for second or subsequent offenses. There's also a rapid fire device classification. The bill defines and classifies a rapid fire device, a device that increases the rate of fire of a semi-automatic firearm, as a dangerous weapon under state law. Oh, well, there's court precedent already on the bump stock. That's not, well, it'll be interesting to see. And then there are transfer restrictions. Restrictions also apply to transfers to certain entities, such as museums, as long as the firearm is rendered permanently inoperable. All semi-automatics. But pay close attention here, because that word in the prohibited activities, it will be unlawful to knowingly manufacture. So, and we're not just talking about 3D printed guns. It's everything. It is, 80% lowers. It is machining your own. It is having a CNC mill. It is all that stuff. It's everything in that protected, we've been able to make our own firearms since the beginning of the country space. No bueno for you. And other prohibited activities like distribute, transfer, sell, or purchase, that means there is no commerce. It's just not possible. And that's not just gun stores. So, they've effectively put most gun stores out of business because, again, the vast majority of rifles at gun stores and pistols at gun stores, the vast majority of them are semi-automatic. Right? Like I said, it's got to be at least 65 to 70%. These guys are just high on their own supply. Then, of course, you get into and again, it's not just commercial sales. It's also, you can't transfer it. You couldn't give the gun as a gift. You couldn't give it to, you can't transfer it. And then, of course, you have rapid fire devices, banning bump stocks, binary triggers, forced reset triggers. And, of course, the transfer restrictions even apply to public collections unless you destroy the firearm and make it completely inoperable. But as always in these kind of bills, there's always exceptions. And the exceptions are always for the only ones, right? The bill allows certain entities like law enforcement, military, and historical societies to continue dealing with specific semi-automatic firearms under specific conditions, like for official duties, historic preservation, or forensic analysis. They always have a carve-out for law enforcement because they're the only ones that can be trusted. Even though private citizens who are concealed carry holders commit crimes at a much lower rate than even police officers, active duty police officers. How many times do you have to see stories in the news of police officers getting busted for doing bad stuff, right? It happens. They're people. But statistically, concealed carry holders commit crimes at a lower rate than active duty law enforcement. But there's a carve out here, of course, for law enforcement and the military. Good enough. You know, the guns are not good for you or me, but they're good enough for agents of the state. And of course, here's the rationale. The rationale for why they're putting this bill forward right now. Section 9, Safety Clause. The General Assembly finds, determines, and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety of our for appropriations for the support and maintenance of the departments of the state and state institutions. It's necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, and safety. Because Colorado is, man, it's like Mogadishu in Colorado. Haven't you heard? It's absolutely for the immediate preservations. One of the things that you can do, by the way, is you can inherit a gun, but you can't get one for yourself. You have to wait for somebody who, you can inherit it. Immediate heirs. So wait, it's immediate heirs and they're in immediate preservations now, but it's okay. I mean, it's okay to inherit the gun. That won't disturb the peace immediately, but and then there's that other thing. Exceptions, again, not just to law enforcement. Exception include transfers to heirs, transfers to federally licensed firearm dealers, or transfers to residents of other states. So it's good enough for people in other states, but not for you. So, I mean, does that mean, and Rajit Singh asked this question, he goes, what about that exception to transfer guns to residents of other states? Using the logic of the bill's safety clause, does that mean Colorado is allowing the exportation of harm to other states? I mean, this is madness. This is flat out madness. Now, interestingly enough, again, we're going to see what happens. Now, whether Jared Polis, the Democratic governor, who has got some libertarian tendencies, I understand, whether or not he's going to step up to the plate here and do something on this and veto it, I don't know. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see. But it's going to be interesting. There may be some repercussions to this in Colorado, and there will be court challenges. There's no doubt about it. This is an overstepping. But I would not want to live in Colorado right now. I'll tell you that for nothing. All right, hour 2 is dead ahead. We got Chris Cheng coming up and Willie Waffle, plus more stories on the ATF. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show. I mean, I just can't even imagine. I'm trying to wrap my brain around why, I just don't even know. I want to know, I would love to have been a fly on the wall when they were discussing this whole thing. I mean, what is going on with this? Why would they be like, what we really need to do? We really need to pass a ban on all semi-automatics. We need to pass a ban on all semi-automatics. Oh, Frank says, banning weapons of war. What war or wars? Well, that's the thing, Frank. You know what's a weapon of war? My Winchester lever action. My Winchester lever action was a weapon of war at one point. Now, I mean, not that specific, but that design, right? That Winchester lever action is a weapon of war. It was used in wars all over the place in the West. Your Garand, your Lee Enfield rifle, your Remington 700, that's a weapon of war. The Remington 700 is the base platform for the M24 sniper system. I mean, those are all weapons of war. The 1911, the Colt 1911 was a weapon of war. The Webley pistol, revolver, weapon of war. They're all weapons of war. I mean, Frank says, I like to use tomahawks and longbows. Are those weapons of war? Yes. Yes. Yes, they are. Yeah, it's madness out there. Anthony said, it's a self-harm paradox in Colorado. Make guns go away to protect the people. Criminals are now the only ones with guns. Colorado becomes Fallujah, cartel town. And I'd bet money they have no idea how it happened. I mean, yeah, they'd be like, I don't know. How did this turn into Mogadishu? I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just like, wow. Oh, man. Anthony says, inherit guns. Don't tell my boys that. They'll Mufasa me to get to my collection. Long live the king and all that. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, Brian just won the internet today with a great quote from Thomas Paine. The greatest tyrannies are always perpetuated in the name of the noblest causes. Yeah, let me read that to you again. The justification, the safety clause. The General Assembly finds, determines, and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety, or for appropriations for the support and maintenance of the departments of the state and state institutions. We couldn't do any of these things if common, average, everyday people had guns. We couldn't support and maintain the departments of the state and state institutions, and we need it immediately for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. Because again, apparently it's like the shootout at the OK Corral. It's like Skid Row everywhere in Colorado. It's dangerous to go alone. So we need to disarm all those pesky law-abiding citizens and make it so only the criminals can have guns in this case. Rajit also makes a point. He says, the only laugh I'm getting out of this bill is that one of the House's sponsors is named Camacho. That's the namesake of the U.S. president in the cult classic movie Idiocracy, which Colorado voters seem to be taking inspiration from. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Colorado. I don't have any friends in Colorado. I don't know anybody there. I know that, I remember Magpul pulled out of Colorado, and a bunch of other gun companies that had moved there from California to begin with have pulled out, and they've since moved to Texas and done but Colorado they just can't seem to get out of their own way. They just keep moving in this direction, and they don't learn. Again, it was only 11 years ago that all those guys got recalled. Now, the question is it the same electorate that it was 10 years ago? Probably not. Probably not. We'll see. I just don't even know. Let's see what else. Oh, another C.S. Lewis. Brian is going to the quote machine this morning. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Was pot illegal 11 years ago? Brian's asking. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a couple years later that they finally. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh, you can't make this stuff up, folks. You cannot make this stuff up. All right, hour 2 is dead ahead. We got stories galore. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show. I have 2 guns, one for each of you. Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature, to learn more about gun rights, gun laws, tips, tricks, tactics, and everything else that you would want to know about the Second Amendment. Welcome back to the program. How are you folks doing this morning? You ready to rock and roll? We just finished up talking about this new law in Colorado, and during the break, the people in the chat room were laying down some serious knowledge and common sense in there. It's amazing. Colorado now introducing a bill, an authoritarian bill, that would essentially outlaw all semi-automatics in the state. Semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, or pistols. I mean, I don't even know. This would be struck down as unconstitutional because these are all firearms that are in common use. So they're setting themselves up for a couple different things. They're setting themselves up for a recall. Because if you don't remember, back in 2013, Colorado passed a bunch of gun control bills, and the lawmakers who were in charge of that were immediately recalled by the voters 10, 11 years ago. So apparently they've forgotten about that. So they're going to have to face that, but they're also going to have to face, the Brune decision, Heller, McDonald, and Brune, those 3 decisions. This flies in the face of pretty much all of that. And I just don't see how they're going to try and make that fly. But I'm just glad I don't live in Colorado, which is really sad because Colorado used to be that was the place, right? I mean, that was the live free kind of place for so many years. But about 20 years ago, they kind of came off the rails, and it's just gotten worse ever since. But we'll be watching what happens in Colorado, and I'm sure many other blue states are watching what's happening in Colorado because they want to do their thing as well. But we'll see what happens. But that leads us over to the Supreme Court because there are several cases that are out there, and a lot of them surround this same kind of thing. Not a full semi-automatic ban. More importantly, they're talking mostly about assault weapons bans, right? But again, the so-called assault weapons, and again, there's no real definition of what an assault weapon is. It's kind of in the eye of the beholder. But part of the problem is that AR-15s have been deemed to be in common use, right? I mean, those are 20 million plus AR-15s in the country, used from everything from competitive shooting to just target plinking to hog hunting and deer hunting. I mean, it is a common rifle. It is in common use. So there's 2 different cases right now that are up in front of the Supreme Court, and there's been some question as to whether or not the courts will hear them. And it turns out that according to the Second Amendment Foundation, 2 of the assault weapons ban cases that they have been working on and representing have now been distributed to conference, meaning it's going in front of the justices for them to decide whether or not they're going to take them up. The Supreme Court on Friday distributed 2 Second Amendment Foundation cases for conference. The 2 cases, Snope v. Brown and Gray v. Jennings, challenge assault weapons bans in Maryland and assault weapons and magazine capacity bans in Delaware. In Snope, SAF is challenging Maryland's ban on assault weapons and is joined in the case by the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, the Firearms Policy Coalition, and a private citizen, David Snope. SAF sought cert after the Fourth U.S. Court of Appeals ruled en banc that the modern semi-automatic rifle ban by Maryland falls outside the protection of the Second Amendment because they're too similar to military arms. SAF and its partners contend that this reasoning is being a commonplace misapplication of the Supreme Court's precedent in the Heller rulings and McDonald's and Bruin. They said, quote, Snope provides the Supreme Court with an excellent vehicle to correct the widespread misapplication of the court's precedent regarding these firearms in the Second Amendment. The case is an appeal from final judgment with an en banc decision of a circuit court. Moreover, the specific type of firearm in question is commonly owned across the country, placing it well within the scope and protection of the Second Amendment. By granting cert in Snope, the High Court can help settle the matter once and for all. As for the case Gray v. Jennings, SAF and its partners are challenging gun and magazine bans in Delaware and petition SCOTUS to rule whether an infringement of Second Amendment rights constitutes per se irreparable injury in the context of a preliminary injunction. FPC, DJJ, AMS, and 2 citizens are involved in that case. Noting in their petition that the High Court has previously ruled that the loss of First Amendment freedoms, even for minimal periods of time, unquestionably constitutes irreparable injury, SAF and its partners are asking the court to determine whether the same standard applies to the Second Amendment. Currently, there exists a circuit split on the issue. So this is all good news that the court may hear one or both of these cases. I would hope that they would hear both because they do have some separate issues involved in it. But this is what the Supreme Court is facing and looking at right now. And we're hoping that they will be able to take some of the pressure off this. And this would actually have a profound effect on what's going on in Colorado right now. If there's another decision here that straightens it out and basically says, hey, you can't. I mean, even though the Colorado ban is not an assault weapons ban, it's just a flat semi-automatic ban on all semi-autos, regardless of whether they're configured to look like evil black rifles or not. If it's a Remington hunting rifle with a 5-round magazine and it's a semi-automatic, banned. Right? That just straight out banned. So anyway, here's hoping that the Supreme Court is going to hear one or both of these cases. I would really, really like to see what's going on there. One of the things that happened over the holidays that I wasn't able to comment on because we were obviously off for the holidays is some of the actions of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, BATF&E, known colloquially as the ATF, F Force, F Troop, right? Okay. So they have I guess we could just say they've got a checkered past, right? They don't have the greatest track record in the world when it comes to doing the right thing, protecting gun owners. They're kind of a heavy-handed agency in many ways, and there's always been some problems there. Well, they've also been known to punish people who may have spoken out or pushed back against them. And this happened back in December, right around Christmas. It was reported. It actually happened right at Thanksgiving and wasn't really reported on until later. Now people are asking whether or not they are being used to punish people who may have stepped out of line and criticized or stood up for gun rights. A federal raid in Baltimore on the home of a gun rights advocate ended with no arrests, charges, or weapons confiscations, leaving the local advocate wondering if the action was intended to intimidate lawful black gun owners. ATF agents announced themselves to Mark Chapa Manley and his family by tossing a flashbang into his living room and ordering everyone out at gunpoint during the pre-dawn search days before Thanksgiving. Hours later, after Mr. Manley said agents flipped his house upside down and checked the serial numbers on several of his firearms, Authorities only took one of his cell phones for evidence. Didn't take any firearms, no ammunition, no nothing else. The 35-year-old activist who has brought together hundreds of gun owners for his Choppa Days events through social media said the raid was based on bad intel from someone in Southern Maryland who told the feds that he was involved in weapons and drug trafficking. This is leading a lot of questions. People are talking about swatting. I don't know if you know what swatting is, but it's when they would call in a bogus report on somebody. It really started in the online streaming community when gamers or streamers were out there and somebody didn't like what they were saying or doing, and they would call the cops on them and say that they're terrorists or they've got a gun or whatever. And the police would break into these people's houses while they're live on the stream, right? For no reason, putting people's lives in danger and doing all this. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Anyway, this guy was apparently swatted. Now, there's also some speculation that some of the times these swatting incidents are really the agents themselves or the law enforcement or whoever have a friend or themselves call in and pretend, you know what I'm saying? They're getting their own probable cause, creating their own probable cause. Still a lot of questions on this. And the questions actually came up later. About 10, 15 days later, there were still questions on, and they found 70 firearms in this guy's house. They checked them all. There's no good. The warrant said that he was a felon in possession of a firearm. How did they? He's not a felon. He had 70 weapons. He admitted it to him. He showed them to him. If he was a felon in possession of a firearm, they should have arrested him on the spot. There's lots of questions here. And again, it just makes me question whether or not this was intentional and they were doing it on purpose. I don't know. We have to get to it. All right. I see Chris Cheng is off in the green room. So because we're so close to the break, we're just going to take it a little bit early, and we will be back with more here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio. Back with more and Top Shot Chris Cheng on this beautiful Firearms Friday.
Now you're cooking with gas. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break. Everything's good. Chris Cheng is with us. We're ready to get in with him and see how things are going. And whoa, look at that hair. Holy cow. Hey, man. Look at you. You got all, you're like windblown.
New year,
what's that?
new hairstyle. Trying it out. Yeah, the jury is still definitely out. And growing out my hair a little bit. Yeah, just wanted to try something new. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it's not bad. It's just like, whoa, that was definitely a different look for the Chris Cheng that we know out there, know and love. Hey, how you doing down there, my friend? Are you staying safe? I mean, is it what's it like in sunny CA for you right now?
Well, actually, I'm actually in Dallas, Texas at the moment, for NRA meetings, but San Francisco, we just had a 3.7 earthquake. I had some friends texting me like, did I feel the earthquake? I was like, oh no, I'm in Dallas. But obviously between that and I mean the LA fires are just so disastrous and sad. I grew up in LA, well, really Orange County, but I went to school in LA. Lots of my friends are in LA, and they have been impacted by the fires. Their kids' schools have burned down. I mean, they've lost a lot of my friends have lost their homes. It's really tragic, and it's tough to watch this destruction from afar. And then, of course, for those of us who live in California, know how there's been so much mismanagement of
right. Yeah, I was going to
landscape and.
I was going to ask you about that, because it seems like the more that I hear and the more that I read about it and everything else, it seems like the government of California has completely just dropped the ball on this over the last 5-6 years. They haven't been doing the clean out of the brush and the underfire. There's firefighters reporting that they have no water at the hydrants. And
that's criminal. I mean, it's one thing to, yes, we need to be, doing more prescribed burns, right, and cleaning up the underbrush, like you mentioned. But to run out of water, right, and fire hydrants, like that is crazy. And I was reading an article this morning that the chief of the LA Department of Fire and Water, I think they're paid almost $750,000 a year for their
Wow.
salary. Right, they're
Wow.
the highest paid city employee, and it's like, wait, you just literally failed at your job in
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
most disastrous, impactful way that someone could fail. So this is going to be, I think, a big reckoning, right, for California, specifically when it comes to the home insurance industry. We've seen it impact our mountain property, and we have mountain property in Santa Cruz. Um, our homeowners insurance policy got canceled, right? And so
Oh,
we're now
wow.
on the backup California fair plan, as it's well, we call it the California unfair plan, because your premiums are higher and you're getting less coverage, and
Yeah.
it's supposed to be this plan of last resort. um, but we're going to see some really negative consequences here on
Yeah.
homeowners insurance policies, and I think the
Well,
Democrats too. We're going to see some very negative political
well,
consequences from the top down.
I hope people wake up to this. I hope the people in California, I mean, they haven't elected a Republican in that state in years. Not that they're the end all be all, but I mean, the party that's been ruling for 40 years has obviously not done a great job. It may be time for a change. All right, we're about to jump back in. There's a question here. Anthony asks, this is not for Chris. He says, hey, random law question. After buying my last rifle and waiting 1.5 hours for my background check, the dude informed me about an exemption status you can get by getting an AKCCW that pre-approves. Is this a real thing, and is there a way to get it? Yes, that's true. The Alaska Concealed Carry Permit allows a NICS exemption because you've got the card that basically says you're a good person and you've passed the check. And so while your card is active, you are exempt from the NICS check. There's no other way that I know of to get that NICS exemption other than to have the CCW. But for a while there, that wasn't available after they reinstituted. But about 5 years ago, they put it back in. So yes, that is true, Anthony. If you get your concealed permit, you are NICS exempt. So that's just to answer your question. Chris Cheng's our guest. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this thing. Here we
go. Public enema number one.
No. Sorry.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
That's right, assault radio. It's what we do every Friday. We assault your ears. Are your feelings hurt? Show me on this doll where I hurt your feelings. That's what I want to know right there. Chris Cheng, TopShot champion. Sorry, I had to stop that because that's my favorite thing. Chris laughs every time we hear that.
It's too good.
It's just
too good. And we should be constantly reminded about taking all the assault guns off the streets.
Yeah, no, you have only protection guns, Chris, right? I want to clarify that for anybody. If the ATF's listening, Chris only has protection guns. No murder guns, no assault guns, no killing guns, just protection guns, right?
Exactly.
Everyone certified safe by the state of California. That's it. Chris Cheng, TopShot champion, season 4 of the show TopShot, author of the book Shoot to Win. Also the founder of the Asian American Pacific Gun Owners Association and a bunch of other stuff. And now author, by the way, writing about World War II. I'm looking forward to that book coming out. But Chris, good to see you, my friend. We missed you for December. I hope you had a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. And you and I will have to catch up because I've had a lot of things going on that I haven't told you about yet either. I'm now 300 miles further south than I was. I bought radio stations. We got all kinds of stuff going on, but we'll catch up later on. Chris, of course, post-election, we haven't even talked about the election because we didn't get really a chance to discuss that very much, but it's a whole new world. It's going to be an interesting thing. We've got a Congress that's very much in Republican hands. We've got Donald Trump in the office. We've got all these stories. We were just talking about the Supreme Court maybe looking at the assault weapons ban in Maryland and the one in Delaware. This might be a good time to be a gun owner. Give us your take on everything that's going on right now.
It is definitely going to be a very exciting time for gun owners and for the Second Amendment. I personally am very optimistic that we're going to see some notable movement here on gun freedoms, on gun rights, and I think some rulings from the Supreme Court on the Second Amendment when it comes to specifically on assault weapons. And also there's been some movement in magazine capacity restrictions as well. But the thing that I think the most immediate thing I'm most excited about is national reciprocity for concealed carry. You know, the bill was introduced earlier this week in the House, and there's still obviously a numbers game, and of course, sure, Republicans are controlling both both the House and the Senate, but there are razor thin majorities, right? There is nothing to be taken for granted. Just because you're an R doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be voting for a gun rights bill, right? There's just lots of things that could happen. There's conversations about, do we try and get this national concealed carry reciprocity bill rolled up into this? I forget what President Trump is trying to call it, the one glorious, big beautiful bill.
Right.
And so, if national reciprocity gets rolled up into that, and that bill fails, well, right, that could be that would not be good for the Second Amendment. But point is, I think Congress is going to I think there's a good chance, right, that we're going to see some action there. I think the president has made it pretty clear that he's very open to signing pro Second Amendment legislation. And then the Supreme Court, they have a number of Second Amendment cases on the docket. So it's going to be an interesting year, to say the least. And of course, then 2026 and beyond, we'll see what more comes of it as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some of the bills. In fact, there's actually a bill, and we were just talking about before we brought you on. We were just talking about this raid in Baltimore of this gun rights activist by the ATF, and some questions that are coming up here. And it's not the first time. Remember the airport manager down in Arkansas that was shot in the head during a raid because he was going to gun shows and selling. I mean, this guy was a pillar of the community. Ran the local airport. And they did a raid on his home and killed him during the raid. So the ATF's got some questions. Now there's a new bill put forward by Republican Representative Eric Burlinson and Lauren Boebert to abolish the ATF in its entirety, and another bill not just to repeal the ATF, but also to repeal the 1934 NFA, the National Firearms Act. And again, these may not go anywhere, but it's kind of nice to see somebody actually putting out bills that would pull back on these restrictions of our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the right time to be putting these ideas forward. Also, on the note of the ATF, there's an opportunity for President-elect Trump, right, to nominate do one of two things: either nominate a new permanent ATF director, and hopefully this person would be pro Second Amendment and roll back a lot of these gun control policies that the ATF has been implementing over the past few years. One thing I've been hearing a lot from FFL holders is that ATF audits over the past 4 years have been extremely strict, and gun license FFLs who've been if they violate one small thing like a clerical error, right? Or I heard another story about a gun range whose employees were sweeping brass in some sort of inappropriate manner. They were getting severely penalized by the ATF for these very minor infractions. It's sort of this one and done kind of approach at the ATF. It's just been so heavy-handed. That needs to stop. And President-elect Trump, has an opportunity to really change the ATF for the better. And then, like you mentioned, some of these bills, right, could either severely defund or abolish, right, the ATF as we know it today, which would also be very exciting to see. But that's a pretty extreme step. But
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
administration who was voted in to make these kind of big changes, right?
Right.
To
Yeah.
really scale back the size of our federal government, to really pull power away from federal government and to give it back to us, the people, and to state and local levels.
Yeah. There's been lots of talks about the Hush Act being reactivated and resurrected, which is, of course, an act that would remove suppressors from the NFA list. There's been a talk about, basically opening up and repealing the FOPA, the Firearms Owners Protection Act, which created a ban on transfers of NFA items and everything else. So, I mean, it's a good time to be a gun owner. It's a good time to be a Second Amendment advocate and a wonk on these things. And that's some great stuff. And we have high hopes. Now, whether or not it will actually move through Congress, even though we have the power, I'm still remembering the whole contract with America or contract on America or whatever it was that, when Newt Gingrich and they took control of everything and absolutely nothing happened. So I'm cautiously optimistic that something may occur from those things, but we'll have to see what.
Yeah, let's remember we have 2 short years until the midterm elections, and historically, the president, the party in power, will lose seats, right, in Congress. So, if history is any indicator of the future, right, the Republicans will likely lose control of at
Right.
least one chamber of Congress, right, in 2026. So, if you look at this from, hey, we've only got 2 years, right, to make notable moves on Second Amendment issues. Is that enough time? And to be very frank, the Second Amendment, I would say, is not the top issue for a lot of Americans right now, right? The top issues are
Right.
inflation, it's cost
Economy.
of
Yeah.
living,
Yep.
it's being able to afford groceries and gasoline, right? It's to make sure that I have a job, right? That I can pay my bills, right? That is first and foremost what the president-elect needs to focus on. And of course, our Second Amendment rights are so important, but there is that reality, right, of of the economy, right? Are we going to be able
Right.
to pull out of Ukraine, right, and save money and divert that back into issues facing our own country? There's just a lot of other complicating factors. And so for the Second Amendment advocates, right, we're going to have to continue applying that pressure, right, and make sure that the incoming administration prioritizes not just the economy, but also prioritizes our civil rights along the way.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that during the break, you mentioned that you're actually in Dallas right now for some NRA meetings. And of course, the NRA is back in the news. They have now cut ties with I think, one of the last vestiges of kind of the LaPierre era Brewers, the attorney firm, which the NRA has paid $200 million to over the last 6 years, 7 years. And they've now cut ties with it. There's still some contention back and forth. What's your take on this? I think this goes again towards cleaning up the image, getting rid of the LaPierre era stuff and everything else. What's your take on this move by the NRA? Is this a good sign, and is it a movement in the right direction?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the news, and it's definitely a move in the right direction. And there's a lot of excitement around NRA 2.0, as many of us are calling this next page, right, in the future of the NRA. I'm a part of the outreach committee. I've been a part of the outreach committee for about 10 years now. And so come to meetings multiple times a year, right, I'm not on the board, but I'm with board members, and there's a lot of excitement, right, excitement that I haven't seen for at least the past 6-7 years, but excitement about the future of the NRA, right? We need to rebuild and bring us back to the basics, right, of firearms safety training, education, of providing certain meaningful services to
Right.
members, and then of course being present on the political battlefield, right, making sure that anywhere and everywhere that there is a Second Amendment battle, that the NRA is there and that the NRA is winning. So I'm very optimistic, but there's still a lot of hard work to do. We have more elections, right? Every year there's a board of directors election. This one's coming up in a few months. 1/3 of the board, right, it turns over, is up for elections. So we still need, to elect board members for the NRA who understand that we need to continue changing and shedding ourselves of the baggage of the past, and really bring ourselves back to the basics and make sure that NRA 2.0 is bigger, better, stronger.
20 seconds, Chris. How can folks find you and look at what you're doing? Where do they go?
Yep, they can find me on social media at TopShot Chris, and also my website, TopShotChris.com.
Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion, season 4, author of the book Shoot to Win. Thanks for coming on, my friend. Folks, we're out of time. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Chris Cheng, our guest here in the final segment. So, what's on the horizon here? What's happening? What will we be talking about next month, Chris?
Yeah, well, Steve, boy, December was just crazy. I turned 45, so I was like traveling a bunch for birthday
Yeah.
celebrations and stuff. And then, of course, with Christmas and New Year's, and January, travel, is ramping up. We've got these Dallas meetings, and then I'll be in Vegas for the SHOT Show.
Yep.
So, we'll see what happens at SHOT. SHOT Show is always an amazing time, checking out new innovations with firearms. But then there's also a lot of great changes. Prairie Fire is a relatively new entity. They took over the former Front Sight Training Institute
Right.
out in Pahrump, Nevada, which is like 45 minutes west of Vegas. So I'm going to Prairie Fire to check out their new facilities. I've heard wonderful things about Prairie Fire, so I'm excited to go see it for myself, to go, I think you get to shoot on a zip line or maybe shoot in like moving vehicles and stuff like that.
Oh
So
man, I'm excited about that.
yeah.
Well, as a Front Sight lifetime member, I don't know if I haven't really been following that. I heard about it. I was like, whoa, I guess my membership's probably no good anymore. But
Yep. They're all dead.
it's all dead. It's all dead. But yeah, that's a great facility. And so if they're updating it and making it good, you'll have to give us a report on that when you come back in February, or I guess when you come back next month for that in February. But yeah, maybe we should make a plan for next year. I can't do SHOT Show right now. So you don't know, but I bought 5 radio stations down on the peninsula, and I moved down here. And I redid the whole stations, revived all new equipment, blah, blah, blah. I set it all up. And so now we're down here. I've been working for 8 weeks. I haven't had a day off except for Christmas Day.
Congratulations. That's super exciting.
No, it's super exciting. It's super exciting. It's a lot of stuff, but so I won't be able to I've been wanting to go back to SHOT Show, but maybe next year we can make a plan.
2026.
Yeah,
Let's
we
make
can
it
hook
happen.
up.
Yeah, it'd be great to do a live broadcast with you.
Yeah, we could do a
down in
hookup,
Vegas.
and we could do a hookup at SHOT Show. That would be a fun thing to do for sure. Well, I'm glad you're back again. Mixed. Everybody, tell Chris what you think of his hair in the thing, because he's testing it out. Brian says thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Not sure about the hair, by the way. I know you're 45 and you've hit that midlife thing, and you're like, do I really want to? But hey. You do you, boo. I'm all for it.
Yeah, now on that point, right? So I actually want to make sure that I look my age. Like, this hairstyle is not an attempt at like looking younger. It's not like a Guy Fieri. I'm not gonna like bleach my hair blonde and do like frosted tips or anything like that. That's not the direction that I'm going in.
I could just see you with frosted tips, and then you'd be like,
yeah.
all my guns are protection guns, Oh my God, that'd be great. Well, everybody can tell me here what they say here about that. But well, I appreciate your time, brother, and everything coming on. The book, I mentioned it, and I am thinking about it occasionally. I'm thinking like, man, I wonder how that's coming on the book. What's the time frame for that? Is that this year, the end of this year? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about a third of the way through, and it is it's shaping up to be an amazing story, right? About the Purple Heart Battalion, a group of Japanese Americans who volunteered to fight for the U.S. and volunteered out of the incarceration camps. It's a war novel, right? So it's fiction, but based off of true stories and true
Right.
events and true
Fictionalized history, right? Yeah,
yeah.
fictionalized history, right? Yeah.
So, I'm hoping to be done with manuscript maybe by the end of the year, but then I'm going to shop it around, to hopefully get a publisher. But I'm taking my time. Also, right, I want
Yeah.
to make sure that I do this right. I don't need to put an artificial like deadline on this for the sake of getting it done. I want to make sure that it is the best story that I can write, that is true to history, that's respectful and honoring the accomplishments of these men in World War II in the Purple Heart Battalion. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see when I actually get it done. Hopefully this
Okay,
year.
well, good. No pressure, no pressure. I'd love to read it when it's ready and could come out and
Yeah,
let me know.
I'll send you a draft copy, and you can
Yeah,
give me any
and
feedback if you
if
have
you
any.
need an audiobook reader, you know
Ah,
who to talk to. I've been doing some audiobooks as well for folks. So let me know if you need something like that. So
amazing. I'll keep that in
I'd love
mind for sure.
love to do that. Audrey says I like the hair, Chris. Joel says the
Okay,
hair is fine.
okay,
The hair is fine.
okay.
Melissa
Very
says
down the middle. Hair is fine.
on the next season of Top Shot, frosted tips. It's
Yeah.
okay. And Brian asks if you're going to buy a Corvette, because
And then I need I need the black button up shirt with
yeah,
the flames coming up the
and
sides.
the tennis visor. Yeah, that's it. All right, Chris. Thank you so much, my friend. It's good to talk with you. We'll catch you next month. Okay, have a good time.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. All right, folks, that brings us over to our next thing. My phone's ringing. We're ready to go. It is the weekend, and that is time for Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. Ready to jump into it. Please like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay, welcome back to the program Firearms Friday. The weekend. I might actually take Sunday off today, this weekend. It'll be the first day I've had off since Christmas, which will be awesome. Which means I might actually watch something, which is a good time to talk to our buddy, Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. He joins us right now. Hello, my friend. Been a long time no see. How was your Christmas and New Year?
It was great. I want to do it again. I'm telling you, I love time off from work. It's the best.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to rub it in your face that you worked very, very hard, and it's commendable.
Yeah, no.
I, however, went in the opposite direction. I was sleeping in. I was going out to party at night. I had a good couple of weeks, baby.
Oh.
And I got something for you to watch on Sunday when you have your day off.
Nice. Well, only a year for me to wait for that for my vacation to roll around again. So it's only a year away. Just keep thinking of that. All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the big stuff that's going on. Let's talk about the First Lady. She's got a documentary in the works.
Well, yes, and it's somewhat controversial. Not so much that there's a documentary about Melania Trump, but it will be on Amazon Prime, and some are arguing that maybe Mr. Bezos is buying the documentary to gain some favor with the first family.
That would never happen.
No,
that would never happen.
They would never do that. No, but you're gonna get a documentary now. This is with Melania Trump as a producer. It is what they're billing as an unprecedented behind-the-scenes look at her life. They've been filming like throughout December, and then they'll be filming into this month, and of course the inauguration, and then among that they're also going to tell her life story, and a lot of that coming from the biography that she released back in the fall. And of all the people in the world, it's being directed by Brett Ratner, who a lot of people might.
The
Yeah,
wrestler? The wrestler?
yeah.
Is that what he's a wrestler?
No.
He's
no. Brett Ratner. He used to be a very famous action film director.
Oh, okay.
Until Me Too stuff came up, and he hasn't been getting a lot of work lately. But he's directing this. It's going to be on, of all places, Amazon Prime sometime later in 2025.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be excited about that just to see what it is behind the scenes, the inauguration, and
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, her biography.
I mean, not to get maudlin or anything, but I hope they were behind the scenes yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday during the Carter, not during the funeral, but I mean, it's quite amazing. You have so many former first ladies, former presidents, former vice presidents, all in the same place. I would love to see some behind the scenes footage of that. I would love to see what they were talking about behind the scenes and really get that insight into their relationships. I hope we get some of that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see how that goes. Scarlett Johansson, who is, of course, famous for all the Marvel movies and the Ghost in the Shell, and I mean, just all these different movies. She's a really great actress. I really enjoy her movies. She is going to co-host the Today Show. How can they afford her? What?
Well, I get a feeling that maybe she's throwing in a little favor for Universal, which owns NBC and distributes many movies, as well as, well, that's her husband's employer. And for those of you who don't know, she is married to Colin Jost, who is one of the news anchors on Saturday Night Live. So she's kind of in the family. She's doing a favor for them and probably trying to get a little bit of positive. How do they say, positive points for herself to score a little bit later. But yes, Hoda Kotb's moving on, my friends. Matter of fact, today was her last show. And NBC is pulling out what I argue to be the biggest trick in the book. They have lined her up and lined up a number of guest co-hosts for the new 4th hour of the Today Show, which is going to be rebranded Jenna and Friends.
Okay.
Jenna Bush.
Okay.
Jenna Bush is one of the hosts, and they're going to have, so Eva Longoria is going to be hosting on, we'll see, the 14th. Where's that put us? I can't do the math. I think that's Tuesday. Taraji P. Henson is going to be hosting on Monday and Friday. Keke Palmer is going to be hosting on, on Wednesday. Oh, just in time to promote her new movie coming out next weekend. And then Scarlett Johansson is doing the entire week, the week of January 21st.
She's slumming it down on the silver box or on the small box or whatever. Yeah. Well,
or she's being smart. She's thinking about the future, my man.
Could be.
Because hey, she's got a kid, she's got a family. Maybe she doesn't want to be out in the middle of nowhere filming action movies all the time. Maybe she'd like to have a little bit of a career that keeps her around New York. I can understand that. I admire that.
Sure,
I think, she's definitely, listen, she's a smart lady. I think she's probably going to do a really good job. I think that, they're going to look at her as somebody that, maybe has some other future with NBC in some way, maybe. Who knows?
Well, okay. I mean, still she can make a living. She's still got royalties coming in from the other movies. I mean, sure, why not? Yeah. Do what you want to do.
And hubby makes a decent paycheck.
Yeah.
Not her level, but he makes a decent paycheck.
I don't think they'll be hurting in the near future.
No.
Let's put it that way. Armie Hammer, that's a name I haven't heard in quite a while. He got caught up in a little bit of the whole Me Too thing and everything, although I don't know if I buy it. I don't know. I don't know.
It was a weird story.
It was a really weird
story.
Yeah.
Just to tell people. So basically, he was portrayed as being possibly a cannibal. So he engaged in some some really just not appetizing, flirty talk with some women that made it sound like he wanted to eat them, and it all just exploded and got out of hand. I just think he's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But all that's been going away, and he's starting to get work again.
All right.
And
so he's
guess what he's going to star in next?
A new movie called The Dark Knight. Follow along. I'm confused here because
yes,
it turns out
yes.
it's not a Batman movie, but it's called the.
It's not a Batman.
So to walk me through this, how does this work?
So it's not a Batman movie, but he's going to play a title character who is a crime-fighting vigilante who becomes a hero in the eyes of the public, but maybe not in the eyes of the local police and the local criminals. Dude, this is Batman.
Right. I mean,
this is Batman.
How do they? I mean, I don't even know. The Dark Knight. I mean, isn't that copyrighted? How is this?
It's gotta be.
Is it connected in some way to the DC universe, or it's just just totally different?
No.
Okay.
Totally different. Totally out of nowhere. I feel Warner Brothers lawyers getting revved up in the garage right now, thinking, dude, we are gonna have so much fun with this. I mean, what is going on? But hey, the guy's working. He said he actually did an interview the other day. We didn't talk about this, but he did an interview the other day where he said this is the first time in years where he's now turning down work. That he's actually got a lot of work and a lot of projects.
Yeah,
so,
good for him.
Yeah.
All right. And when's that coming out? Next year? Year after next?
Don't know. Yeah, next year, probably next year. I mean, let's face it. It's not like they're going to have a big budget. It's going to take a long time to shoot this thing.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the more money they save on production, the better for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, one final task here before we do it. The fires in LA, obviously, I mean, that thing is crazy. It's burned like half to three quarters, an area that's half to three quarters of the size of the entire city of San Francisco, like 25, 28 square miles or something. It's going crazy. James Woods lost his house, the big Hollywood, but it's affecting Hollywood right now.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, on the human level, listen, we like you said, we've learned James Woods lost his house. Adam Brody and Leighton Meester, Anthony Hopkins, Paris Hilton, John Goodman, and this one kind of made me a little extra sad. Billy Crystal and his wife lost their home of 45 years.
Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah, and it's impacting the business too, and that's what we talk about, right? We talk about the business. Basically every movie premiere this week has been canceled out in LA. They were going to do a premiere for The Wolfman. They were going to do something for oh god, I'm blanking on it right now. Better Man, which is the Robbie Williams movie, which we could talk about a little bit later if you want. And now it's affecting production. They're making decisions. Like CBS was supposed to premiere The Hollywood Squares last night. They decided to push that until next week. You had Jimmy Kimmel has shut down. He hasn't been able to do his show. After Midnight has not been able to do their show. One that affects me personally, I'll just tell you that outright. The Critics' Choice Awards were supposed to be on Sunday. I actually vote for those. I was actually thinking about going out until a couple months ago. Well, they're normally held in Santa Monica. So that ain't happening.
Right.
They've been pushed off until January 26th. So if you want to see Chelsea Handler on E! hosting the show, January 26th. And then you've got the Oscar impact. So the Oscar voting started Wednesday and was supposed to conclude on Sunday. It's a very quick turnaround. This is one of the quickest turnarounds I've ever seen. But they decided to extend it out a few more days. And because they've extended it out a few more days to vote, the nominations that were originally supposed to be announced on January 17th, which is next Friday, will be announced on Sunday, January 19th. Now.
Okay. So all kinds of stuff happening out there. I mean, I feel bad for people losing their houses and stuff, whether I agree with them or not, or politically or anything else. It's a rough deal. And it just shows the ultimate failure of the California governments. I mean, it's astonishing to watch. All right, well, let's move over to the things we only got about 4 minutes here. I want to talk about the pit. I've seen some trailers for this. Noah Wiley, he's back as a doctor in an emergency room. That doesn't seem familiar at all.
No, matter of fact, it was so familiar. The estate was trying to sue them. Like Michael Crichton's estate was trying to sue them.
Yeah. But it's called The Pit. He's the lead doctor in the worst emergency room in Pittsburgh. Give me a read here.
And listen, it's like a lot of the medical dramas that you see here. I mean, you can see the DNA of this thing, the DNA of ER all over this thing. One of my favorite medical shows, the Chicago Med, very much the same way, right? We're in a fast-paced emergency room, underfunded, not enough staff. Too many people in there, too many sick people, too many people going there because that's the only place they can get health care. And you're seeing them deal with, the stress of all the different patients that are coming in. All the cases are kind of a mystery, what really happened. And then, of course, we're going to slowly start getting into the personal lives of our doctors as well. It's actually good. I think Noah Wiley is fantastic. I love him in this so far. We've seen a couple episodes. They send out a new one on Max every Thursday at 9:00. I like Noah Wiley because he's kind of just a sarcastic, funny leader of the ED who's obviously very good at what he does. And of course, because it's a medical drama, he's got a haunted past, my friend.
Of course he does. It's a drama. Yeah. You got to have it. What do you think? -1 to 4 waffles. Where are you at on this?
I'm at 3 waffles. I mean, I think it's pretty solid and pretty good. And I'm kind of curious to see where it goes.
Did we need one more medical drama, though, is the question, I guess?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. I mean, and that's why I said, like, you can see this in almost every medical drama. But, I think Noah Wiley makes it worth checking out.
Yeah. No, I'm with it. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to get to Wallace and Gromit. We got 2 minutes. You want to hit Springer real quick?
Yeah. So really quick, Springer Fights Camera Action, the new Netflix documentary, 2 one-hour episodes detailing the history of the Jerry Springer Show, going from the failing nice guy, Phil Donahue carbon copy that it was, into becoming the circus that we know the Jerry Springer to be, and taking over America, changing the culture, and Jerry Springer feeling very guilty the entire way. And it's interesting. I mean, they interview a lot of producers who are involved. They have some old clips of Jerry and interviews that he did to kind of give you a perspective that he had. They go through some of the scandals that they went through. They went through basically, I think they're very unapologetic. They made a show that they knew a lot of people were going to watch, and they didn't care what the impact was on the culture. And so you get to see that, but you also see the impact that that's had. And I think they should have done a little bit more of this. One of the producers is very open about problems he had with his family, problems he had from being on the show, the guilt that he feels. I really wish they had gotten into more of that with some of the other people. But I'm at like 3 waffles. I thought it was a very interesting take. Yeah.
All right. Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. I love me some Wallace and Gromit. It's a Netflix movie. I've only got about 30 seconds. Quick waffle meter, and then give me a quick tease before we hit the break.
It's 4 waffles because it's absolutely amazing. It is one of the funniest, one of the most entertaining movies you're going to see. And it's something you can watch with kids, and you can have a really great time and feel not so dumb afterwards.
Oh, man, I love Wallace and Gromit. It's always so much fun. They're always so much fun. All right, Willie Waffle, out of time. The Michael Duke Show. We'll see you Monday. All right, let's talk about it, though, a little bit more, Wallace and Gromit, because, I mean, again, this is one I could watch it with the kids. I could watch it by myself. It was entertaining enough. There was enough innuendo that you could be like, "Oh, I see what they did there." But the kids have no idea. A lot of times there's hardly any talking. It's all action. It's all well done. This looked pretty funny from the trailer that I saw.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. I mean, I love it. So the story is, if you are a longtime Wallace and Gromit fan, if you're not, believe me, they summarized it at the beginning of the movie. An old nemesis is threatening them. Those of you remember a certain penguin named Feathers McGraw. Yes, the one who tried to frame Wallace for stealing a diamond all the way back in their first short. And, he got captured and he got put in prison, in this case, the local zoo. And he's been waiting for his moment to get revenge. And he thinks he's got a plan that's going to get the revenge he's been seeking.
Threatening to ruin Wallace. Yeah. Oh, man.
Ruin him. he wants to destroy Wallace, and and it's so much fun because Wallace is like the inventor, okay, and a lot of the movie revolves around the inventions that he's making, especially one that seems to be very successful. All of a sudden, Wallace is a successful inventor, and things are looking great until the foul plan is unhatched, and that's when Gromit, who's the smarter of the two, needs to step in and solve the crime and prove Wallace's innocence. And I just love it because I love the interactions between Wallace and Gromit. I love Gromit doesn't have any spoken language, folks. He's a dog, but you know everything he's thinking at every moment because they do such a great job with the claymation and his facial expressions and the way he looks at things and the way he realizes things. It is wonderful to watch. Wallace is kind of the cheese-loving, absent-minded inventor who, always finds himself in trouble and somehow escapes it, not realizing that it was Gromit that saved him. And you have a really cool plot. I don't want to give the whole plot away, but basically it's an homage to so many other mystery movies and so many other thrillers.
Oh man,
it's great to watch. It really is a four-waffle movie.
I love when Gromit does those breaking the fourth wall asides where he kind of looks at the camera and you just look at him and you go, yeah, brother, I feel you. You just know it. It's just they do such an amazing job. All right, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul on Netflix, 4 waffles. I'll be watching it on Sunday, I'm sure, when I take a little bit of time off. All right, Willie. Well, we be out of time for today, my friend. What are we doing next week?
Oh, man. Next week we have Unstoppable and Wolfman.
Okay. All right. We'll be talking about that. Thank you so much, my friends. Good to talk with you. We will catch you next week, folks. Out of time for today. Off to the coal mines to do the rest of my work. We will see you guys on Monday. Be kind. Love one another. Live well.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Well,